Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Occupation Inspiration. If you're watching this video, it's probably because you're interested in writing a resume for the very first time or you need some tips after you've made one. So after you watch this video, my intentions is that you will be able to write an amazing resume that's going to get the attention of the employer and get you the job that you want. But before I even name all 10 of them, I'm going to tell you exactly what the motive behind all of these is. Basically, for starters, what I do is I'm an HR professional and I basically read resumes for a living. Yes, that might sound very boring to you. I get it. But for me, I kind of like it some days. So what I do is I read like 20 resumes in one day sometimes. So the tips I'm going to give you is going to be from a professional that's actually in the field and that is reading over resumes and sending them to hiring managers. So I'm going to tell you exactly what we look for, exactly what we don't like to see, and exactly what you should be including so that you can get passed on to the higher up. I want to tell you that the main priority that you should have is making sure that your resume is straight to the point, okay? I cannot stress it enough. Please keep it simple. Anyways, let's hop into tip number 1, okay? And I wrote some down on my phone here. Do not use paragraphs, okay? Use bullet points. And I'm saying this because when a person like myself is reading over your resume, it is very hard to find information and then be able to reference back to it as well when everything is just jumbled into a big paragraph. And I'll put an example here of what I mean by using bullet points instead of a paragraph. It's very straightforward and it allows us to read from top to bottom what you have to offer, okay? We're not looking to read a storybook. I'm sorry. I know a lot of you guys are good writers, but we don't want to read a story, okay? We want to just see bullet points, bullet by bullet, what is required for the job. That's rule number 1. Use bullet points. Thank me later. The next tip is always put your name on every single sheet of your resume, okay? This is important because in my last position, actually, before I got into HR, I was helping out still with the hiring managers here and there, and I would just print out the resumes for them in order to get them ready for interviews that they had coming in. And so for me, being an assistant, I was printing out these resumes and then I dropped them. Yeah, that happens. I dropped them all over the floor and I didn't know which order they went into. So it just was a mess. It just keeps your resume from being mixed up with others. Just make sure that you put your name and, if you can, your number on the header of each page of your resume. That's tip number 2. Now, tip number 3. Please make sure your resume is no longer than 2 to 3 pages. Okay? It's so important. Like I said, your resume is not the only one that is being read, okay? So just make sure that when you're writing a resume, don't go over 3 pages because after that, most of the time, employers are not reading more than 3 pages of a resume. I'm so sorry. Unless you're applying for something so strategic and specific, don't do it, okay? You're going to waste your time, and I don't want you guys to waste your time. Please don't. I want you guys to write something that we can read every word of. So please do not write us a whole Bible of what you have done in the past, okay? But that is tip number 3, okay? Save yourself some time. Trust me. The next tip is always have somebody proofread your resume, okay? I can't stress this enough because I've been there before. I've written out a well-written resume that I felt like had no mistakes. I used Google Docs or Word Docs to check my grammar, make sure spelling is correct. But when it came down to it, I still was missing these things that I had messed up, So for instance, I had my dad read it over for me, and then I would have my mom read it, or even a professor or my current employer, he did that for me because I was an intern. So you never know. Sometimes your employer will read over a resume for you, even a coworker. but please do not just depend on the grammar checks that come with your editing software, because it will not always catch all of your errors. So just make sure you have somebody else read it over. Trust me. The next tip is, this is a good one. Please be careful not to use repetition. So this happens a lot, okay? I've read over a lot of resumes and I feel so bad because they use up a lot of space that they could have used to write something else. What I mean by that is that basically in the experience section of your resume, you're going to have those bullet points, okay, of what you've done at each job that you've ever held. But say you are, let's just throw it out there, say you're a housekeeper and you're applying for another housekeeping position. This is just an example. If you were a past housekeeper in like the last 3 jobs you've had, do not keep putting underneath each job, I swept and mopped. I swept and mopped. I swept and mopped. Okay, because we already see that you have the potential to sweep and mop. And that's for any occupation, okay? Even if you're a secretary, don't say words per minute. I can type 200 words per minute. I can, you get what I mean, okay? Even me saying it is annoying. Repetition can be annoying. So I just want to save you the space. And plus, you can use that space to write another skill. So just think outside of the box. Even if you've held the same type of position, but at different places of work, you can find different ways that you have experience in. You can find different experience that you've had at these occupations. Do not repeat, okay? You're wasting your space, and I just don't want the repetition to happen for you. Trust me. Okay, the next tip is, the references. Okay, so references, just for educational purposes, a reference is going to be somebody that you can call on to talk good about you, okay? That is the simplest definition that I can think of. A reference can be a past employer, a past coworker, even a friend sometimes, or an associate that can talk well and talk really good of your work experience. So make sure that you can include at least 1 or at least 2 references on your resume, and usually this will be at the bottom of your resume, So just make sure that you're including 2 people that you can trust, to where when the employer calls them, they're not like, "What's up?" or cracking a pop can. Okay, I don't know what they drink, but make sure that they're professional when an employer calls them. Okay, they got to be on the spot, ready to go. So pick your references very wisely. Okay. And just make sure as well with the references, that you put their name. It should have their title as far as like, where they work, or like their occupation name or their relation to you. And then also, did I say their number? Yeah, it should say their number as well. If it's something else, I'll put it right here, but I think I'm telling you right. But anyways, that's for references. And then one more thing about that, it'll help to save your future employer time, because when it comes down to it, if we want you for an interview, we're going to look for those references. So it'll just save you time from scrambling around like, oh my goodness, I need to find references. You already got 2 in the bag that you can always put on your resume. Okay. That is leading me up to another tip. You'll be surprised with this one. Okay. Do not include photos on your resume. I know you guys have beautiful headshots and you get them done, or you take a nice selfie, you think, oh my goodness, my smile looks so good, an employer's gonna like this. We're not.
No,
we're probably not.
That's not happening.
I'm telling you, we're probably not gonna like it. It takes up space. So do not include a photo. Also, you can get discriminated against if you put a photo on your resume, okay? And it's not just about like your skin color and all that. It's about like, they might just not like how you look in your photo. And that is so unfair. And of course, they're not going to tell you like, you didn't get the job because I didn't like your photo. But that can be a reason, and they're not going to tell you that. So just to save you some heartbreak and save you from being done wrong, do not include a photo. Let your resume speak entirely for you. A resume is worth 1,000,000 trillion words, okay? I know they say pictures are worth 1,000,000 trillion words, but your resume and your references will go much farther. So do not put that photo on there, y'all. Save it, okay? I've seen some cute photos, but your photo can be the cutest, but if your resume ain't talking, child, that resume is going in the trash, okay? I'm sorry. But at least you know. So that's another tip. The next one is, do not be afraid to brag about your abilities. Submitting your resume is the time to talk good about yourself, okay? I know it's not good for us to brag and you got to be humble, but on your resume, put them awards you've won. Put down the things that you have participated in, okay? Volunteer work, that's another tip. But put down these things because this is the time where the employer is going to be looking like what separates you from the rest of the crowd.
And I feel that I'm different from everybody in the house.
Think outside of the box. Pray before you write your resume. It's going to help you a lot. Trust me, I've been there. And another tip, okay? Excuse me. Try to include your salary in your resume. And I say try to because it might not fit with all the information that you have. So if you can include it, I would say to, because an employer might be able to compete with your current employer's salary. So if you are upfront with them, like example, I make $60,000 a year. If you're not talking, I'm getting hype. If you're not talking 60,000, then I'm going to skedaddle. So you got to just be upright and personal with them and tell them like, this is what I make. And it's just as simple as underneath the experience section, you can just put down your salary next to each job that you've held. This is a bonus tip, okay? I just thought about it because I was talking about the experience section. Make sure that y'all are listing your experience from most recent to least recent at the bottom. We should not see your least recent, your first job you've ever held at the top of the list, okay? Put it last, honey. Make sure that you have the most recent job, like where you're working now first, so that they see that and then they can rank it down. Because these people are reading your resume from top to bottom. And usually a lot of people start losing focus towards the bottom of the resume. So put your most important information at the top. These are some juicy tips. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is the last tip. We are number 10 now. This is a cool one. So volunteer experience. Volunteer experience is another version of the experience column on your resume. The only difference is most of the time for volunteer experience, you are working for free, okay? And a lot of people think, I can't put that on my resume because it's not a real job. But that's furthest thing from the truth. When most employers are looking at your resume, we are looking for experience, okay? We're looking for experience. It doesn't matter if you got paid or not. For example, if you volunteered at your church and you were doing childcare or you were babysitting and it ties into the job occupation, put that down, please. So do not stray away from the volunteer experience. Trust me, it can go a long way. So don't overthink it, okay? Everything is not going to be paid. So just remember that. But that is it. That is the 10 tips for writing a resume. I hope that helped you guys tremendously. Thank you so much for tuning in. Leave a comment if I missed something or maybe you used these tips and it was very helpful. But if you guys want a part 2 of maybe a more in detail version of this, let me know. But I enjoyed writing it and I hope you guys benefit from it, okay? Thanks again for watching another episode of OI, where we inspire your future. Bye, guys.